Welcome to another episode of GeekSpeak Guides with Yvonne Heimann, your can-do geek, and Susan Finch of Susan Finch Solutions.
Hi everyone, Susan Finch here with GeekSpeak Guides, and I am here with Yvonne Heimann. And today we are talking about passwords and usernames. And what we want to give you is free advice, how to make things more secure, even though I know for some of you that really like that password 12345. That's going to be really hard to remember if we change it on you, but you have to change it. We want you to be secure. We want your WordPress sites to be secure, but it's just passwords in general too. You know, this can apply to many things. And Evie has some favorite plugins she's going to talk about as far as this type of thing. And we have some favorite tools we've been talking about down in the comments stream. And we're going to give you as much quick advice as we can. So ask your comments, put them down in the comment stream, ask your questions, tell us your favorite tools and things you hate and things that you love. And we will cover as much as we are familiar with. And if we aren't, we'll tell you. We have no idea what you're talking about. So, Evie, good morning.
Morning, everybody. Yeah, Susan, you are a fan of Lastpass, aren't you?
I am, and Volker turned me on to that. I was complaining about something, I forget what it was, and keeping password notes and having my password show once when I did a screen share, and I had my favorite passwords up on my screen. That was really dumb. And Volker suggested LastPass, and I have to tell you, once you get it set up, it's a fabulous tool, guys. What it does, it's $12 a year, renewable annually, and tools change. So sometimes I like things for a while. I don't need a forever license. So $12 a year. You go to lastpass.com. What it does is when you give it permission during this setup, it's kind of invasive. It'll feel very invasive because it has to look at your stuff. It swoops through your browsers where you have any saved passwords. And every browser that you install it on, it will swoop through them all, collect them, gather them, and take them out of the browser. When you have passwords saved in your browsers, it's not totally secure. I know you think you have to be logged in, but hackers can find it. This encrypts all of that, rips it out of the easier to find areas, and you come up with one really long password that could be like a whole sentence. And that's your new one password. And the beauty is you only have to do it one time. You set it up. When you go into your browser, you have it logged in there, and you don't have to log in again. It just does that. And as you go along and you log into websites, the browser, because it always does, do you want us to save the password? And you're going to say, not ever. But LastPass will ask you, and it'll say, would you like us to save your password, my dear? And you would say, yes. And it even lets you put it into special folders, and you can organize it by client, you can organize it by social media versus business, and it makes it really easy. And it will save that logged in password only there and not in the browser, and you don't have to remember it anymore after it's saved. You're done. You are logged in. Okay, have I lost everybody yet? I bet I have. I'm sorry, guys. Brian Shea's probably like, oh my gosh. Stop doing that, you guys. You can also add it to your phone. It has a phone app as well that's very handy, and it would be the same one long sentence-y password that you create, and then you're done there as well. These are all for time savers, frustration savers, but mainly they're for your security. Edie, what do you use?
One thing that I would like to mention on LastPass is it also gives you the possibility to share certain passwords. So if you are in a business correlation and you have to share passwords for client access or whatever, you can set up a folder for that, and you can say, hey, Susan, here are all the passwords for that client, so you can work on that site. And it still keeps it secure. It's still safe in there. So it makes collaboration really easy too. A lot of my associates are using 1Password. Same thought behind it. It takes everything out. It helps you generate some safe passwords. It sets up 1Password for you, just like LastPass. That lets you log into everything. So it's the same thought behind it. It's just a different interface. So you guys just check it out, which one you like easier, which one works better for you. As much as I know, LastPass as well as 1Password, they are both working on mobile, Mac, and Windows. no matter on mobile, no matter if Android or iOS, so that for a small premium fee, you can take it anywhere.
So let's get back to our prompt, though. What started all this, guys, is when we've touched on it a few times in WordPress. When you set up a new site or when you're updating themes and all that type of stuff, you have users and passwords in there. And sometimes, you might want to review, especially if your site has been passed down through a couple of developers or helpers or team members. Review the list of users in your site once in a while, every quarter or so, just to make sure you still want all those folks having access. And if you don't, delete them. You can also just limit their access and make them no longer an administrator or an author and just leave them in there as a subscriber, so they can still get their byline for those articles, because that was nice of them to create great content for you. There's nothing wrong with leaving that. So that's an option, is to switch them to subscriber. That's one of those 3 options, I believe, isn't it?
But the lowest level is just a subscriber.
Right, and then they can maintain their authorship. So, that's one thing. And you can also change the password on that too, because they won't know you're the administrator. And so they won't be able to get in and edit anything or, have any access at all to your site. But you're still giving them credit, and that's a very nice thing to do. So the other thing is with your own passwords. I know we have hundreds that some of us need to know. And if you have clients that you help them with their things, you have all their stuff, and they want you to maintain all of that. Guys, stop this craziness. Give yourself a tool, like Evie was saying, where you can separate it out by client or by use or however you want to with these folders, and manage it much simpler. Because even Sherlock was saying that it makes her crazy. People will say, whoa, what's the password for my site? Well, you haven't talked to me in 3 years. I don't remember. And I don't know if it was the last one. I hope it is. And if not, we're going to have to do a password reset, and I have to bill you for all this. So it's much better to, make sure you have that all, so you can just give them in, 20 seconds or a minute, here's your passwords. Go get Lastpass or go get 1Password and go look at it yourself. That's an easier way. Sometimes put it back on them. They should know it too. And it is a great tool. I know some folks, they actually require their clients to use Lastpass for that exact reason, to exchange those passwords. Both systems we're talking about, both softwares, allow you to generate a strong password to meet the criteria of the site. So sometimes you can't think of one more doggone stupid password. They will create a very secure one for you, and you can tell them how deep or how secure or how crazy you want it, and it will generate it for you. And you don't even have to know it, because it just gets saved for you in the folder.
And one thing that you have to remember, we are not trying here to completely lock your site down. If we can generate a password can be broken. What you want to do is you want to make it as difficult as possible, because if they are spending hours and hours trying to crack your password, they're going to move on, because there are people who use 123 password. They're going to go the easiest route, so you just want to make it as difficult as possible. And Mark and Cheryl, they started a conversation because we're also talking about usernames. Why I had a heart attack when he told me his username is admin is because that's a standard username. That's like using password as your password. You are already giving 50% of your, in his case, WordPress login to an eventual hacker. It's a standard. 99% of the hack attacks are using admin as a username. Secondary, which I stepped into early on too, look at which username is displayed on your posts. So when you have written your nice post about your cute doggy pictures or something like that, go to the live post, and in the site it says posted by or published by. What is the name that shows there? Make sure that the name that shows there in that post is not the one you were using to log in. Bots can run through your site and they find that posted by, and again, no matter how secure that username is, they have 50% of your login. So make sure that you just use your first name or whatever you can come up with.
I'm a fan of complimentary things like gorgeous, hot mama, web goddess, things like that. Doesn't really matter because it doesn't show.
Susan the greatest. Yes, and you often also can, if you are the only writer on your blog, you often also can disable this part that says published by. So that way you take it completely out. As a tip, how you can do that is when you have your user and you go into your WordPress backup, you look at your user profile, it says first name, last name, username. As soon as you put in a first name and a last name, it gives you more choices for the displayed username, and that's how you can generate a different username to be shown on the website.
Eamon Johns says, a good reminder, guys, don't give that personal information that the banks always ask to your mother's maiden name, the pet's name. Try and keep it something more interesting, personal, unique, that maybe it's an inside joke, maybe it's a favorite movie, something like that too. If you're trying to come up with creative passwords, bridge over the River Kwai, not my favorite movie, but nice long kind of thing you can use. I have to let Sheila Hensley pulled her own covers, and she is going to be working on a proper sheet. She has an Excel sheet for one of her clients with all the passwords. And if that's, I love Drive, but there's just something about sharing a whole spreadsheet of passwords in Drive that, gosh, that makes me nervous. I don't really recommend that. I know it's handy, and I have a couple clients that insist on it and say, oh, we don't care. But I'm not comfortable with it. That's what they do. They share it with me, and it's like, sheesh. So, highly recommending, guys, one of these tools. And Brian Shea brought up a nice point that, as web developers, if we're helping you or other professionals like us helping you, we really don't want your usernames and passwords. But I know for some of my clients, I pretty much run the show. They don't even know. They don't set up their accounts. They don't do anything with it. They do nothing. They will give me marching orders. I run it almost like a staff member. So I do know all their stuff, and I appreciate that trust. But I also have to keep track of that for them and make sure it is as secure as possible. So that is also why I switched to Lastpass, was to do my best by them to make sure that their stuff was as protected as I knew how to do, without making myself crazy with having to remember all these cockamamie passwords.
And Excel spreadsheets have that place. When I send off a client, when they're like, you know what, we don't have the money right now, or whatever, they're moving on, they get a final, this is all your login, this is the link to where you get, that's your password, that's your username, and they get one spreadsheet with everything, and I sent them off. So spreadsheets have their place, but the time that you spend on opening up a spreadsheet and finding the login that you need, and then finding the username and copying and pasting and putting it over on the website, and then it changed, or you missed one space in the password and suddenly it tells you it's not the right password. It's just you are spending so much money. And look, LastPass, even the premium version costs you $12 a year. That's 2 Starbucks coffees. That save you how much time? It just makes life way easier between generating passwords, saving passwords, keeping everything encrypted.
I do use the spreadsheets too for some clients, like you were saying, Evie. It's handy sometimes to be able to pass off the story that when we do an email campaign, and I kind of do it by use. Email campaigns, we use MailChimp, we use, whatever we use. We use a proprietary software, and this is when we use those and why. To also put that logic in there, because sometimes I'm out, maybe the person who used to be in charge is out, and somebody else has to pick up the ball and run. Maybe it might be maternity leave, maybe there was a car accident, maybe somebody got fired, I don't know. But it makes it so much easier to pass off not only where to go, but why.
What a lot of people more and more do, or services, is also a secondary login, like Authy. I think LastPass might be offering secondary authentication too. What that means is, instead of just having a username and a password, you log in with your regular login, like you go there, you put in your username, you put in your password, but instead of getting in straight away, you, for example, I don't even have my cell phone with me today, you suddenly get a text message or an email that says, hey, is it really you that wants to log in? And you have to follow the link, and then you really get in. So you have a secondary authentication that makes sure that not somebody just has your login, but you have a physical proof that you are you. So hacking a cell phone number is not that easy. So you have that second step in between, or your email. I don't even know if I mentioned that before. Brian brought up a really good thing to keep your email password the most secure you can. If somebody gets in your email, they can reset any of your passwords.
I've watched some bad couple breakups, and that's the first thing the spouse goes after is the email access to reset banking passwords, everything, because that's where the email verification comes from. So yes, that cell phone that is at your side, that only you can see what's coming in, that is a great secondary, bit of security.
And Google, a lot of us use Gmail as their standard email account. Google offers two-step authentication straight out the box. You can go into your privacy or security settings and set it up right there. It's not even a third-party application. A lot of hosting companies, for example, they're using Authy now. So you have a little app on your phone. You try to log in, you then have to open up the app. It gives you a secondary set of numbers that you have to type in, and then you get in. So again, two-step authentication. There are so many out there now, and it just makes it really so secure because it's not just a username and a password. You need physical evidence that you're really you, and you don't just look like you.
And, maybe once a year you'll take a deep breath, or more frequently, and change your email password. It wouldn't hurt, because I don't think we always realize, at least some of us, I know that we get kind of tight in these circles, especially on Google+. It's like, oh, can you just go handle that for me? And I have to admit it, I've given it to a couple of you guys. And periodically I should just change it. And it's nothing against any of you, but who knows if your system's secure? I don't know. I don't know what kind of tools you use. For all I know, you're some dopey person that lets everything get saved and it all gets everywhere, and there you are with my password. That's how our clients feel too. They trust us. They give us the information, but our job is to not let them down. And so we owe it to them. If you work for other people at all and ever have to access any of their stuff, you owe it to them to take care of them and validate the trust they've given you. When you set up WordPress sites, same thing. Validate the trust people have given you when you set up their sites. Value your own content well enough to check who's in your user accounts periodically, who has user accounts, and change your password periodically. When you go to Lastpass and it says, hey, that didn't work, you just update the password, and it will, again, not save it to the browser and put it back in the system. So it can do that for you as well.
Sheila was asking if Lastpass allows two-step authentication. Yes, it does. Lastpass allows two-step authentication too, through Dual Security, Yubico, or Tuple, which are just third-party applications. They just help with that. Funny thing, Brian is already laughing about us. He's like, don't get too hung up on that two-step authentication. It sounds crazy, and it's like, oh my God, I'm just trying to get my password safe right now. If you just glazed over when we were talking about the
Sherlock just cracked me up though. Yeah, don't worry about that, guys. Just make yours, start with the easy stuff.
Exactly.
First, look through your users on your website. Is everybody there that you want them to be there? So everybody needs to go away. If they do, change their password and change them to subscriber mode so they still get credit for writing what they contributed to your site, if anything. And if they didn't, throw them away. It's okay. They'll never know. Second, make sure your password is secure on that site. Make sure your password is secure on your email. Change it once in a while. Some of us are notorious for having the same password for everything because we come up with a great one and then we just use it for everything. Careful. Use some variety, come up with some sentences, as complex as you can get. One of the final things, find a tool that makes it easy for you to manage your passwords. We've been talking about 1Password and Lastpass. Lastpass is my favorite. Evie has clients that use 1Password. Work with what works for you. For $12 a year, I'm good with Lastpass. I'm thrilled with the headaches it saves me. I'm thrilled with being able to find and organize everything by folder, by client, by type, and update it easily. And also I get to use it on my phone with their free app. So that's easy. And I came up with a fabulous password.
And you know, with a yearly cost, your chances are better that they are staying in business and that they're keeping the service updated and that they're keeping everything secure. With the one payment, there's often, I don't think it's going to happen with one password, don't get me wrong. They are long enough around the block. They have proven themselves. I don't think they're going to just go out of business. But with these one-time payments and you buy a license, with things like that, there is the insecurity of, you know, if they sold 100,000 of these and they don't get any money in anymore, how they're going to stay in business? You know, I just never really know. So on security, things like that, I prefer a yearly based payment because I know they are regularly getting money into their business and they can stay afloat and keep everything updated.
Thank you for joining us today for another issue or episode of GeekSpeak Guides. Hey, what's on tap next? Is it the plugin one?
The next one is our social media widgets on your site. So how can you fill in your site with things that you already do on social media, and the week after is going to be the plugins.
He said don't tell 2 weeks in advance. It confuses people. Just worry about next week. Next week, social media widgets is what we're talking about. So if you were at this event, we'll invite you to that event, and then you can ask your questions and talk about the ones you like best and any horror stories you've had, and we will tell you our own and some recommendations. So again, thank you for joining us for GeekSpeak Guides. Thank you for everybody in the comments and the support. You guys were awesome, helping to answer questions as we were going along, and we hope that, you know, I don't know what help we just provided to you other than cramming it down your throat what you need to do about your passwords and your usernames. You know, got anything else, Evie? Oh, you can check out our community,
GeekSpeak Guides.
GeekSpeak Guides community, and our website, geekspeakguides.com. Anything else?
Subscribing to the YouTube channel. Let me know if you specifically want to be notified if new shows are coming up. Again, and we'll see you next Monday, right here, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. GeekSpeak Guides, trying to make all this nerdiness easy for you. See you next Monday. Bye.
Join GeekSpeak Guides live Mondays at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Google's Hangouts on Air or on YouTube. And join our community on Google+. You can find all of this and more on our website at geekspeakguides.com. We hope you find this week's show helpful.